for the word? This has been a rough series, baggage. Before I forget, Wednesday nights, okay? We're revamping Wednesday nights. We're altering it. We're not completely getting rid of Royal Rangers and missionettes. We're going to once a month. But on Wednesday nights, we're going to more of a children's church setting. We're still going to utilize all of our teachers that are there on Wednesday nights. But instead of the fellowship hall, instead of that building right there, they're going to meet in the children's church. So if you have kids on Wednesday nights that you bring them in the children's church, okay? And I believe this is going to be, look, there's so many kids in this neighborhood. I believe if we try something, look, we're trying it, okay? If it don't work, we'll go back to the old thing. But we're going to try something new and see if we can get a lot of these kids from the neighborhood into this church on Wednesday nights. Amen? Amen. And look, we're still going to utilize all of our teachers, so all of the teachers, you're not off the hook. You got to show up Wednesday night. So, baggage, back to that thing that we all love to talk about, right? No amen right there, no. But look, when we don't have baggage, when you're not carrying things around, you run faster, you run further, you get more things done. But we need to learn how to talk about our baggage, okay? And it's kind of like getting you to evaluate things in your own life. But it's sensitive. Sometimes we don't want to talk about things in our life, And I said this last Sunday. I believe that if we're going to continue to move forward, and like I said, I believe we're on the cusp of something. And all of my messages since last year have been purposeful. I believe God's about to do a great work in our life, but we have to work on ourselves. If we're going to minister to everybody out here, we have to work on this person first. Michael Jackson once said, start with the man in the mirror. Now, I'm not condoning Michael Jackson, but that's what we have to do. Every day when we wake up, start with that guy in the mirror. Start with that woman in the mirror, that man in the mirror. And now, if you're here this morning, you would say, you know what, Pastor Ronnie, I'm super Christian. I deal with my baggage. I don't have any baggage, okay? I just don't do it. Whenever something happens, I deal with it. Whenever something happens, I take care of it. There's nothing hindering me. Nothing at all. Thank you, Danielle. Look, me and Danielle have been married for 27 years, and she's been with me all the way, okay? And look, I'm not going to say I have a perfect marriage, because I don't. Anyone tells you that they have a perfect marriage, they're lying. But I would say I have a successful marriage. Danielle's been with me for 27 and a half years. Been with me through thick and thin. She was with me all through my ministry. She was with me through She was with me through my call to Bible college. She was with me when we came back. She was with me when I got my first time youth pastorate, and she was with me when I got fired from my church and all the struggles that I went through when I was dealing with that. Then she was still with me when I came over here as your part-time youth pastor, then your full-time youth pastor, and now your pastor. That still sounds funny to say that. But she's been with me all the way. And we have a successful marriage. But even in a successful marriage, we still deal with baggage. Okay, we have baggage. And this morning, I'm going to talk about the baggage of family. Thank you, buddy, for staying still that long. Family baggage. You can go back. And make sure you go back. I don't want you roaming the halls. Okay. We all deal with family baggage from one time or another. We all deal with people baggage from one time or another. We all deal with it. And again, even if you are super Christian, we deal with baggage. And look, and some of you might say, yeah, there is a couple of old bags in my family, but I'm not just talking about mother-in-laws. That was wrong. So this morning, as we talk about family baggage and people baggage, I want you to be thinking about how you can start dealing with that. Okay, because we all have to deal with it. And I would like you guys to think I have the perfect life and I don't have baggage. But look up here, probably half of these bags are mine. Okay, and not just as physical bags of mine. I do have baggage in my own life, but I'm coming clean to you guys. I deal with stuff, and it might be a sensitive area for some people. But family baggage and people baggage have been here since the beginning of time. Okay, we've all dealt with it through time, and let's look at some Bible baggage first off. Do you think Adam and Eve had some baggage? Do you think after their first date, he had some issues of her choosing the next restaurant? You know, I heard an old joke that said the reason why women don't know what they want to eat when you take them out is because that first time they chose their restaurant, they cursed all of humanity. But that's a bad joke. It's not my joke. I didn't write it. I just heard it. I'm just saying. But not as a big laugh as I thought it would get. But that's baggage. And then look, they raised two boys, and they don't just fight and disagree. How many of you guys have siblings and you've fought? Have any of you guys ever killed your siblings? Okay. Hopefully you didn't. If you did, I came close to killing Dawn once. I kicked her in the face, and got a story about that. She was just short enough, and I kicked her, and I popped a vein in her jaw. But we didn't kill each other, okay? They had kids that killed each other. And look at Esau and Jacob. Esau was the firstborn, and Jacob had convinced him to sell his birthright for a bowl of soup. He's like, dude, here's a can of Campbell's. Give me half of what you got. And he was like, okay. He must have been simple. But that threw baggage in. Why are you laughing at that? That threw baggage in their life. Now, what about Joseph? Now, when I think of family baggage, when I think of people baggage in the Bible, Joseph always comes up. Now, this guy had some baggage to deal with. I've wanted to kill my little brothers at a time or two, but I never wanted to sell them into slavery. Okay, they sold him into slavery, and they first plotted to kill him. Then they said, "Let's sell him into slavery." That boy had some baggage in his life, okay, and he had to deal with it through his whole entire life. Then there's David. Talk about some more family baggage, people baggage. His life was a mess from the very beginning. The prophet was like, "Bring all your sons here, and I'm going to anoint one of them king." All right, so he's going down, and he just forgot about He left David in the field, okay? And the prophet goes through all the sons, and he's like, no, there's one more. And it's like, that's just David. He's the run of the family. He's not important. Bring him. He anoints him as king. So there's two baggages right there. First of all, Dad, why didn't you invite me to the party? I should have been here in the first place. Second of all, just imagine you're a 14-year-old kid, and you've just been anointed king. David, clean your room. I'm king, Mom. David, help me with my chores. Dude, I am king. Now, I would be like, I'm sure David was a little more humble than that, but I would have been like that. It created baggage in his life. And then moving on the further in his life, one of his sons, Amon, rapes his own daughter, Tamar. Later on, he gets killed by another son. That's baggage from the Bible. People all throughout history have dealt with people baggage, family baggage. We all deal with it. Again, if you are the best Christian in here, I'm not one of the best Christians in here. I'm not going to say I'm. But if you think you're the best Christian in here and you say you have no baggage, there's got to be one little bag that you carry around. Maybe something happened in your family, your brother or sister, or maybe a coworker said something to you, and you're kind of like, let me just hang on to this for a little while. We all deal with it. We all deal with baggage. We all go through stuff. And look, when I get into a series like this, I have to look in because I've always said, when I preach to you guys, I'm preaching to myself. because I've revealed a lot of things in my own heart as I was putting this message together yesterday. Well, not just yesterday, but throughout the week. And I've had to deal with some stuff because I have baggage. I am not going to stand up here and say, no, I'm the super Christian I'm talking about. No, I'm not. But I realize we all have to deal with this baggage. And a series like this, it helps me deal with baggage. So listen to King David's heart here. In Psalm 109:22, he says this, "For I'm poor and needy, and my heart is wounded within me." The NIV says it this way, "For I'm poor and needy, and my heart is full of pain." And this is King David, okay? He's not like, I'm poor and I have a hard time paying my bills. He's king. He's needy. He's got issues in his life. He's dealing with something. So if someone like David, a man after God's own heart, can deal with baggage, is dealing with, then I don't think any of us can say we have no baggage. We all have it. He has things in his past that are holding him down. And think about that. People wound us with words and actions in the process of life. And most people carry these wounds in their hearts for their entire life. I know people with wounded pain, and so do you. In fact, I believe if we were to have a little powwow and everybody in here thought of one piece of baggage in your life, a lot of you would be crying right now. Because it's baggage that you still have around, and whenever you talk about it, whenever you think about it, it brings up those feelings. If you can't talk about a situation without crying most of the time, you're still dealing with that. Or if you share your story with someone else and they start crying, maybe it's baggage that they're dealing with. But we're all dealing with something. We're all carrying wounds. Even King David, like I said, a man after God's own heart, had baggage. Psalms 109:21, he says this, "But you, sovereign Lord, deal with me for your name's sake. Out of the goodness of your love, deliver me." And in Job 7:11 says this, "Therefore I will not keep silent. I will speak out in anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul." And look, for men in general to deal with baggage, how many of you guys, be honest with me, let's say, when someone asks you what's wrong, I'm all right. If we're honest, every guy in here go, I'm all right. Everything's fine. Because we don't want anyone to know that it's a little rough. We deal with it. It's tough. But God's saying, hey, if you want to be a man of God, and if you really want to walk in freedom, and if you really want to be the person I created you to be, you're going to have to open up a little. You're going to have to deal with some of that baggage, put some of that baggage down to be the person I want you to be. We may have to get a little vulnerable. Open yourself up. But I'm good. Right? And I imagine a lot of you guys are like me. I don't want nobody to know that I have baggage or any problems. I convince people that I don't have any. And when they tell me, you got problems, I say, I got problems, you got problems. Right? I throw it right back on them. I make it their problem. I make my problem their problem. It's a circle. But we have to deal with it. Anything comes my way, I just try to knock it down on my own, and I keep on trying to move on, but I'm still learning that God doesn't expect us or want us to be that way. He wants us to be open. He wants us to be transparent to Him. We have to take responsibility of our baggage. That's the first step. The first step to moving towards freedom is take responsibility of your baggage, regardless of where it came from. And some of you may be thinking, you have no idea what I've been through. You have no idea what's happened in my life. You have no idea what my parents have done to me, or my friends have done to me, or my coworkers have done to me. You have no idea. And I don't have any idea of what you've been through, but I can tell you this. I guarantee that every single one of you has a story. You all have a story. You all have some sort of baggage that you're carrying around in your life. And regardless of where the baggage comes from, I understand that story because I have a story. I have lots of stories, and Danielle would tell you, yeah, he's got a lot of stories, and some of them you just don't want to hear. And I'm not saying I have a story for you to say, for me to say, look at me, feel sorry for me. But I do have a story. Look, one of the stories I was dealing with not too long ago, I was in the kitchen, and I was doing something at the kitchen sink, maybe washing dishes. And I looked out the back window, and I seen Sam, my little boy that was just here. I seen him playing out in the backyard, and I started thinking, that's my boy. You know, it's a proud dad moment. I was playing baseball or soccer or something like that. And I'm thinking, that's my boy. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a bag came and slapped me on the back of the head. I wonder if my dad ever looked out the window at me and said, I'm proud of my boy. Probably not, because I was abused pretty harshly growing up. You know, have you ever heard the term, I'm going to beat you so bad your own mama won't recognize you? Yeah. That's happened to me. I took the fall for something my friend stole. I got arrested for it, and I had to go to juvenile officer on the following Monday. Well, my dad beat me so bad because I didn't want to snitch on my friend, and my mom didn't recognize me. So here I am, you know, that's... By the way, let me fast forward to a few years back. You know, I've already made peace with my dad, and I actually prayed with him an hour before he died, so I believe Dad's in heaven, so that's all good. But it was something that I had to deal with, you know. But it was baggage that I think, you know, I was dealing with at the time. So I understand having a story. I understand that hurt and pain and unforgiveness that we build up creates baggage in every one of us' life. And when we hold on to this baggage, it doesn't affect our victimizer or our offender. Whatever they did, it doesn't affect them. It affects us because we're holding on to it. It keeps us from living in freedom, and it sometimes blocks us from having a wonderful, beautiful relationship with our Father in heaven. When we're holding on to baggage, so much baggage, we can't see what the Lord has in store for us. Let go of your baggage. We have to come to a place and say, wait a minute, this emotion, this hurt, this pain, it belongs to me and me alone. And I have to make the decision. I have to decide that I'm going to drop it. In order for you to drop your baggage, you have to take responsibility for your baggage. And responsibility is defined in Webster's dictionary. It says the state of having a duty to deal with something. So point 2 is make a decision to deal with it. And I'm not saying it harshly like just deal with it. Like just go to Lowe's, get a ladder, and get over it. I'm not saying that. But we have to deal with it. We own our responsibility. We own our baggage. Again, regardless of where it came from, it doesn't matter where it came from. What matters is how we're going to deal with it and how we're living our lives today. So what happened, if it happened yesterday or 37 years ago, we have to deal with it. We have to take responsibility and deal with it. And I just want to reiterate at this moment that, look, you're not responsible for your offender. Okay, you're not responsible for what happened to you. Somebody else is. They'll have to deal with it. But what you are responsible for is carrying it around. And this is a tough one. It's hard for people to do. It's to actually say that I have an issue, that I have a hurt, I have an offense. It's hard for people to say that something's wrong with me. It's easy to go through life just carrying the bag. Well, this is me. This is who I am. It's going to be with me for the rest of my life, so I'm just going to deal with it, right? That's the easy thing to do. But the Lord wants us to deal with our bags. And maybe some of you have hurt that's still on the inside, but the Lord wants you to deal with your bag and release it once and for all. Psalm 143, verse 8 says this, "Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way that I should go, For to you I lift up my soul. Just show me where I need to go. Show me what I need to do. Pray for if you don't know where your baggage is, pray for the Lord to reveal to you if you have any baggage. Job says this in Job 6:24, says, teach me and I will be quiet. Show me where I've been wrong. And again, I want to stress that the baggage is not your fault. It was not something that you chose. It was put on you. Maybe, again, somebody victimized you. But I do say this. The choice to continue carrying baggage around, it's our fault. It's our fault. No one can make you mad. People can do things in your life to influence you getting angry, but no one has the power to control your emotions. If I can really make you mad, Sister Sarah, if I can make you mad, I have the power of all your emotions, and I can say, you know what? If I can make her mad, why don't you go rob a bank for me? I have control over her. But no one can choose your emotions that you have. You control your emotions. The choice to carry bags is our fault. Continuing to let that thing control your life and let you not be everything that God created you to be, that's wrong. Because God's provided freedom through His Son that died on the cross for us. He provided freedom that if we just open up our hearts and allow Him to do His work, there's freedom. There's freedom from that baggage that we're carrying around. The anointing of God, that anointing breaks all the bondage that's in our life. And as you lift your soul up to the Lord, asking Him to deliver you from your baggage, you know what happens? He'll do it. We got to be willing, though. We got to be willing to let go. He desires for you to be free and delivered, and He desires to help you. Number 3 is change how you think. Change how you think. One of the ways to walk in freedom is we have to change how we listen, the way you think about what caused your baggage can be a much larger problem than the incident. Let me read that again. The way you think about what caused your baggage can be a much larger problem than the incident itself. Let me give you a ridiculous story. And this is ridiculous, but it's just an example. The other night, me and Pastor Matt, we were playing Modern Warfare. You know, we were shooting up people, killing, and we were building our stash. Okay, we were doing pretty good, and we had all of our guns and all of our perks and we had large backpacks, and I know y'all don't know what that means, but we had it all, and we just had we were good, all right, and we were about to load out. We were about to end the game, and at the end of the game, you go in a helicopter and you fly away. But right before we got to the helicopter, you had some cowards that were just hiding in the bushes, and they killed us right before we got on the helicopter. And I was so furious, all right? And normally when that happens, they're like, go to bed, it's just a game. But something happened that night. Something tweaked in my mind. And an hour later, I was still fuming over what happened to me. And I'm like, this never happened before. I'm bothered of what, and those guys that killed us, they could care less what they did. They're living their life. They're probably shooting other people on other games that they were playing. But I'm here going, cowards. It was affecting me. All right. So my baggage was more than that incident. Sometimes we make our baggage more powerful than what actually happened. We have to change the way we think. Now look, again, I said this twice and I'm going to say it again. Victimization is unfair. It's unjust. It's painful. However, when we allow our hearts to overflow with these issues, it affects other people. When we're carrying around family baggage or people baggage, it affects our self-worth. It affects our relationships, and ultimately affects our trust in God. Allowing yourself to continue to have them in your mind and letting it continue to rule your life, it'll affect you as long as you choose to carry it. Robert Menzies said this. He was the past prime minister of Australia. He said this: "It is a simple but sometimes forgotten truth that the greatest enemy to present joy and high hopes is the cultivation of retrospective bitterness. It is constantly looking back to the past and things like you were mistreated or bitter about. It will steal your joy. It will steal your passion for life. It will steal your dreams." Bitterness is your baggage, maybe. Cultivation just means that it's encouraging the growth of something. And when you're harboring that bitterness, that stuff that maybe family or people did to you in the past, you're encouraging growth of that baggage. That's why people that's been hurt people. That's why people that's been abused abuse people. It's a circle. It goes on and on. It's like carrying a bag and constantly picking up more things and just getting weighed down and weighed down and weighed down. But we're talking about how to walk free and through it, right? Romans 12:2 says this: "Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds." The NLT says it this way: "Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think." Change the way you think. Ephesians 4:22 and 23 says this: "Throw off your old evil nature and former way of life, which is rotten through and through, full of lust and deception." So there must be a spiritual renewal of our thoughts and our attitudes. We need to change the way we think about things. So once you take responsibility for your baggage, make a decision to deal with it, you can change how you think. And look, I understand it's easier said than done. It's easy for me to stand up here and say, just deal with your baggage. It's going to be okay. But it's hard to do. But I believe if you do this next point, it'll make your life a lot easier. So number 4 is to release your offender. That's a rough one. Release that person that wronged you. Release that person that did that bad thing to you. I think sometimes when we've been offended or become a victim, we hold on to the bitterness and we're holding pain because someone wounded us and they've hurt us. And we're justified in having these emotions and feelings about them. We feel justified saying to them, you know what, I can't wait until you get punished. We feel justified when we say, you know what, I can't wait till you hurt the way you hurt me. We feel justified in saying all that. We feel justified in saying, you know what, I can gossip about you. Because of what you did to me, I can say all these nasty things about you because I'm justified. You hurt me, so I can hurt you. I can lie about you. But God has called us to a much higher standard than that. Colossians 3:13, it states this. It says, bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord has forgiven you. Forgive whatever grievances. That's rough. Pastor Ronnie, you don't understand. This person did this to me. How can I forgive them? Jesus forgave the very people that was murdering him. Our job that God has called us into is to stand to a higher place than our offender or our victimizer. We're supposed to stand in a place that's free from family baggage, free from people baggage, free from hurt, that pain and bitterness. It's really easy to live a life imprisoned by your emotions. It's really easy to not forgive. It's easy. I've lived with unforgiveness. Not no more. In the past, I've lived with unforgiveness. Because it was just easier to deal with it. Easier to walk around with it, to actually forgive them. Because you don't have to do anything. When you got unforgiveness in your heart, you don't have to do anything except ruin a family. You don't have to do anything except ruin a relationship. You don't have to do anything except destroy a marriage or harm children. You don't have to do anything except those things. They'll destroy your life. We need to let God to bring us to a place, allow God to bring us to a place and say, okay, my expectation is for you to release your offender. And look, releasing your offender is not affirmation that what they did to you is okay. It's not. I'm not saying that. But what it's doing is saying that you're not going to allow that thing to control you. And for some of you that are holding on to that baggage with your parents, possibly with your siblings, maybe friends, you've been holding on to that and it's affecting your entire life. But I believe before we walk out here today, if there's anyone left in here that you're holding on to baggage, I believe that the Lord wants to take it from you. He wants to lighten your load as you walk out these doors this morning. Some baggage of bitterness and unforgiveness I had dealt with, and I've told some of you guys the story in the past. I was a youth pastor in Thibodeau for 7 years almost. And Pastor Rose had hired me, but then he retired, and another guy came in, and the other guy he didn't like me. For no reason, he just didn't like me. I had one of the largest youth groups in Louisiana, 125 teenagers in my youth group that was active on the roster. We were doing good. And this guy decided, you know what, I don't like you. You're fired. That hurt. Okay, and I'm not going to go through the whole story. There's a whole story there. But long story short, I came to a point where I forgave the deacons, and I forgave, I even said I forgave the pastor that did that to me. But I wondered, what would happen if I ever seen him in public? And forgiveness with me was a daily thing. I'd have to wake up every morning, okay, Lord, today I choose to forgive. It was wrong what he did. I felt that he was influential in ruining my life for a little while. He was influential of my depression that I was dealing with, that there was points that I was thinking about suicide. Yes, as a minister, I was thinking about suicide because I was so hurt. Every day I woke up, Lord, help me forgive this guy. And after he fired me, I even stayed out of big stores in Thibodeau for over a year until I found out he had left Thibodeau, because I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt if I ran into him in Walmart, I was going to jail because I was going to punch him. That's how much bitterness I had in me. But I kept on praying, Lord, help me deal with this. Help me deal with this. He left Thibodeau, moved up northern United States, but then a couple years ago he came back down. And I started thinking, what if I ever run into him in public again? I mean, I'm eventually going to run into him at some event in the state because, he's Assemblies of God credentialed. What if I see him in public? What's going to happen? I know I say I forgave him, but that feeling you get? You think back when you were a teenager and you had a boyfriend or a girlfriend and y'all broke up and y'all didn't see each other for a while, and that feeling you got when you saw him for the first time after a couple of months, that feeling, you know what I'm talking about? Or that feeling after when you and a friend got in a big fight and you didn't see each other for a while, and then all of a sudden you saw him, that feeling? I thought I was going to at least have that. I ran into him last year at the district council lead conference. And I seen him, and I didn't have that moment. I just saw him. I was like, hey, man, what's up? And I talked to him for about 15 minutes. And he told me what he's been up to, and I told him what I've been up to. Now, of course, I had to direct my story around the things that he contributed to him. I didn't want to say, I did this because you messed up my life here. I had to tiptoe around it. But I talked to him for about 15 minutes, and there was no hurt in my heart. I was like, God. I dealt with it. That baggage is gone. Now, it's a scar. I have scars all over my body. If you look at me, I got scars on my face. It reminds you that a wound happened, but you've been healed of it. All of us have wounds. You have scars. You have old baggage you got. But look, I think I told Tyra this, or maybe. So it's going to sound familiar to you. Dealing with unforgiveness, you have scars, okay? But if I were to start picking at this thing, and start picking at it, and start remembering what he did, and start dwelling on it. If I do this long enough, you know what's going to happen to that scar? It's going to turn into a sore again. Whatever happened in your past, if you've dropped that baggage, don't pick at it. Don't pick at that scar. Let it go. The Lord healed you. Okay? The Lord delivered you. And there's times that if I sat here and thought about what he did to me, I would get angry again. But I have to tell myself, leave the scar alone. Whatever's in your life, if you've dealt with it, leave it alone. Because you probably have other bags you need to deal with. One of the stories in the Bible talks about Joseph, and we already know about Joseph's pain. He was sold into slavery. He was accused of coming onto a woman. He was thrown in jail. All kinds of horrible things take place. But then all of a sudden, he's second in command. God elevated him. God worked favor in his life for him and his brothers, the ones that put him down the path of hurt and pain. And now they're standing right in front of him, and they're worried for their lives because they realize, yikes, that's my brother. We did some bad things to that guy. And this is what it says in Genesis 50, verse 19 and 20. It says, but Joseph told them, don't be afraid of me. Am I God to judge and punish you? As far as I'm concerned, God turned into good what you meant for evil. He brought me to this high position I have today so that I can save lives of many people. God didn't bring the pain or baggage into your life, but he can bring it out of it. He'll bring that pain into a testimony so that you can be the reason other people can be delivered from their pain. You can help other people because that's what Jesus did. And that's the example Jesus set before us. Mark, you can come.